So I get this question a lot. If the visa officer or the consular asks you who is paying for your trip, what is the best answer to give? Sometimes people get confused, or applicants get confused with that question, as in who is paying for your trip, to the question of who is paying for your deficit. This can be or are two different questions altogether. And if you are a fellow subscriber, in the coming days I'll work on a video where I'll talk about who is funding for your deficit and how to go about it when a consular asks you that question. But in today's video, I want to just focus on the question, who is paying for your trip? When asked this question by the consular, how should you approach this question? Now, the thing about this question is the fact that even when you are filling your DS-160 form, there is a section in the DS-160 form where you are asked who is paying for the trip. And sometimes people get confused, people contemplate on the kind of answers to give. Now, I'm going to answer this question in ways that, based on where you find yourself in the case studies that I'm going to give, you would know how to answer the question. So first and foremost, if you are an applicant with a fully funded scholarship, like in my case, where I knew I had a fully funded scholarship and on my I-20 I had zero deficit, in terms of answering that question, I could have just indicated that University of Colorado Boulder was taking care of my trip, and it was going to make a lot of sense to the consular. It was going to, be very feasible to the consular, right? Because that is the case. I had zero deficit. So if I tell you that the school is taking care of my trip, you should understand what I mean by the school is taking care of my trip. Now, if you are watching this video and you also find yourself in that category where you have fully funded scholarship, you can go by that same approach where you'll be like, my school is taking care of my trip. So I think there's a section where you can, on your DS-160, you can go for other and indicate that is the school that is taking care of the trip, right? But when I was coming to the United States, at that session, I was a bit confused as well. So if you are watching and you are confused, you are not the only one in that situation. I was also confused whether to use my school, knowing well that the school was not giving me any additional money to take care of my trip. Because in most cases, that is how it is like in most US universities. Few of them will cover your trip. Most of them can give you funding, but how you manage to leave your home country and come to the United States, they don't really care much about that, right? So in my case, my school didn't give me additional money to cover my trip. So I was to, cover or find money for my trip. But still, like I said, it was still very feasible for me to say that it was the school that was taking care of my trip, since it was a fully funded opportunity. But that is not what I did. What I did was that I secured a bank statement from my uncle, and in that session, I indicated that it was my uncle who was taking care of my trip. So I took his bank statement and I went with his bank statement. Funny enough, I was not asked that question, and I was not asked anything about bank statement because, like I said, my I-20, the deficit was 0.00. I had no deficit. The school was literally taking care of everything. So there was no need for me to even go to the embassy with bank statement. But I went to the embassy with a bank statement in case I was going to be asked a question about who was going to take care of my trip, knowing well that my university didn't give me any additional money to cater for that. Then I was going to say my uncle. That was the reason why I went to the embassy with my uncle's bank statement, just to tackle that question, who is paying for your trip. But if you are watching this, you can do it either ways. It's either, if you've gotten fully funded scholarship, you can tell the consular that the school is taking care of your trip, and like I said, it's going to make sense to them. Or you can go with an uncle's bank statement, it's going to make sense to them. Or you can also go with a personal bank statement if you have any savings anywhere. The section in the DS-160 where you can indicate that you are self-funding for your trip. If you put self-funding there, it means you have to go with your personal bank statement to show that indeed you have money that will cater for your trip. So you might start asking yourself, how much is the price of my flight from Ghana to wherever I'm going to in the United States? And based on the amount of money, you can make some approximations and know the amount of money that needs to be in your savings account, right? And if you are going for the visa interview, make sure you take that along. Now, if you are watching this and you didn't get fully funded scholarship, is your uncle or your mother or your brother is the one that is taking care of your deficit, then the session where they ask who is paying for your trip, it is advisable to put or indicate that my uncle, my mom is the one taking care of my trip. You want to have that kind of alignment in terms of your story. So if you have a deficit, if you didn't get any form of scholarship from the school and it is your mom or your dad that is funding, then it's advisable to say that it is my dad or my mom that is paying for my trip. Sometimes you can have your mom or your dad paying for your deficit, but then the session where it asks you who is paying for your trip, you can also have some additional money in your account that you can indicate that you are self-funding for your trip. So your mom and your dad are the ones taking care of your deficit. I mean, the total cost of attendance that you've incurred from the school. But when it comes to the trip and that kind of funding of the trip, you are going to use your personal savings. It's also a very good way of you building home ties. The fact that you are going to let the viewers know that there is a work you are doing in Ghana, and as a result of that work that you've been doing, you've been able to save some amount of money that is going to help you self-fund your trip. So you should always know, based on the scenarios or based on the case studies that I've given, based on where you find yourself, you know how to answer this question when it comes up. So if you are fully funded, you can use the fact that the school is funding, or you can use your personal statement, or you can also use that, oh, my dad or my brother or my uncle is the one sponsoring, and it's not going to be a problem in any way. And if you are going with partial funding or no funding at all, it is also advisable to use the bank statement that you use in taking your Form I-20, right? You can say, it's my uncle that is paying for my trip, but that shouldn't always be the case. Your uncle can be the one paying for your deficit, your total cost of attendance, and when it comes to the trip, you have some additional funds that you've saved that is going to cater for that. Like I said, it's a way of you also using that as an opportunity to build home ties. When it comes to the fact that you are working in Ghana, and based on the work that you are doing, you've been able to save some amount of money that is going to help you take care of your trip. So there is no one-way approach to this. You can go about it based on however you want it, because sometimes people make it look as if, oh, you had funding from the school, why not use the school? But if you are looking at it properly, the school just gave you funding for tuition and maybe some stipend, but they didn't give you any money for your flight, right? So like I said, there is no one approach. You can still indicate or still say that the school is taking care of your trip, because it makes sense. If school is giving you some funding, it makes sense that, oh, they are in a very good capacity to take care of the trip as well. At the end of the day, if you have fully funded opportunity and you are saying you are self-funding your trip, it also makes a lot of sense. You don't always have to necessarily put that the school is the one taking care of you, and because you didn't put that, that is what is going to cause your denial. No, that is not the case. Let me know what you think in the comment section.